You're back on the air with Eric and Robin Gagnon. We are the Restaurant Brokers. Remember, you can find us online at WeSellRestaurants.com. Take a moment, like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/WeSellRestaurants. And of course, our Twitter handle is Sell Restaurants. Remember, We Sell Restaurants is your industry authority and source for information. And we are the Restaurant Brokers. Today, we are talking about restaurant design with some experts in the industry. And we were just saying this topic could go on forever because there's so much interesting information. Eric, why don't you kick us off?
It is, and I appreciate Joe from R&D Magazine, Brent from Louisiana as an architect, and Steve from Nomad's Production here in Atlanta that to join the show today. And one of the rules I have on this show for people to listen a lot is after the first segments, we're all friends, so we can talk about money. So I want to open the discussion a little bit about cost, because we have listeners here that are mom and pops. We have guys who are multi-unit operators. Not everybody thinks architects, designer, people like that. We're talking millions of dollars. I don't believe that's true. So let's talk about budget a little bit. I mean, if you're a little mom and pop, you have $10,000. Can you make an impact? Or if you're building a concept from the ground up, what are you looking at? So, Steve, why don't you chime in on the smaller side, and then Brent, I'll ask you to chime in a little bit on the bigger picture.
Sure thing. This brings to mind a chain here in Atlanta, Frontera Restaurant. One of the things that we did with them was we set a budget between $5,000 and $8,000 per restaurant. There's 15 stores. And what I did, and I'm not an interior designer, I'm an industrial designer, and we produce things. We work with over 300 artisans in Mexico. So I produce for a lot of design firms and directly for restaurant customers. And with Frontera, what we did is I walked with the owner through the stores. We did the first 3 together, and then I did the rest. But we set a budget that made sense for each store, and with $5,000 to $8,000, I came through, took out clutter, I added lighting, and I added impact pieces that made the most effect on the guest's impression.
That's amazing.
Wow, that's amazing. Because these are big restaurants. How many square feet are these typically?
They're from 5,000 to 7,000 feet.
Wow.
So
you can make a difference with that little money.
We could make a difference. We chose items that were there already. We moved them. We reused. We adapted the pieces to a different location. We added simple impact to the bathrooms, changed the mirrors, changed the sinks, and we added a lot of impact in the host area. And then when you're at the host area, the first thing a customer does when they're going to be seated, they look ahead to see where they're going to be seated. And if you take those vantage points and you add an impact piece that will pull people to their destination, that sets the pace.
Oh, I love that idea. So you're going to pull people through the restaurant visually from the moment they hit the door. Brent, do you want to weigh in briefly on that idea as well?
It sounds like a great idea. I mean, that's exactly the idea, is to try to create a couple of little spots inside the restaurant where you can spend some money on and let the rest just kind of be what it needs to be. One thing Steve mentioned that I think people overlook way too often is the restrooms. Used to be restrooms, if they were clean, they were good enough. That's not so anymore. I mean, the restrooms are now becoming a major focus of some of the restaurants in terms of, how they're getting their message across as to who they are. Mm-hmm. And you can spend a lot of money in restaurants, so in restrooms, so this probably isn't the right, talking about that on a budget isn't the best segment to go into. But in terms of the overall budgeting, we've worked with budgets. I can't say we've ever worked with anything in a $5,000 budget, but we've worked with very small budgets up to, $1 million budgets, over $1 million. And it all depends on where you choose to spend your money. I mean, typically when an architect gets involved in something like this, we're looking at moving walls, we're looking at moving electrical. We have plumbing issues to deal with. Unfortunately, that stuff isn't very cheap.
Hey, Joe, let me just tell you, I think that you need to grab Steve here to do an article for you guys on how to retrofit a restaurant with such a minor budget. That sounds pretty amazing. Do you want to weigh in on the topic as well?
Yeah, I think Steve and Brent's points I think are spot on. I think the takeaway here is that understand that less is more. You're tempted to put a lot of additional things around a restaurant, and understand that less is more. Everything has to support the brand and the experience that you're trying to create for your customers. And then you have to prioritize, because money is it's finite, and the amount of space in there is finite. So you want to make sure that when a customer leaves your facility, that they're walking away having the experience you wanted them to have, number one, and number two, that they're going out there and they're saying good things about you. So you don't want to overwhelm them with too much stuff. And when you're looking at signage, for example, don't get real creative. Don't get too creative with signage. Understand that signage is there. It's there to help guide someone through the restaurant space. So make sure that whatever signage you put on, that it supports the style and the brand of what you're trying, the look and the identity of what you're trying to create. But I have to be able to find it to know where the silverware is or how to get to the restroom and so forth. Great.
Guys, we're kind of running towards the end of the segment here. Each one of you, one quick tip for someone to go ahead and enhance their restaurant.
Steve, you want to kick us off?
My biggest tip is plan ahead and don't think too small.
Okay.
Spend your money where the impact is.
Great. All right. That was just a few words, Brent. Can you come back with the same amount of words and give us your tip?
Wow. The tip would be know your brand, know who you are, and know what you want to be when you grow up, and plan how to get there.
Okay. Joe, how about you?
Be sure to prioritize. There's a lot of great ideas out there, but pick the ones that are going to have the most impact and generate the greatest return.
And now I just because you guys have so much information you can share with our listeners, and they do range from mom and pops who are starting out to multi-unit owners. Let folks know. Obviously, we'll cross-promote this on our website and our social media pages, but where could someone find you, Steve? What's the easiest place? At your website?
Yeah, at our website, it's nomassproductions.com, and the reason for that name is everything we do is hand-produced. So if you think about it, it's No Mass Productions.
Perfect. Okay.
NOMAS, No Mass Productions.
How about you, Brent?
Our website is BBIUSA.com, and you'd be welcome to go to that or give us a call. We're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, BBI Architects.
Perfect.
Joe, where can they find your publication or get a hold of it so they can educate themselves to be better at producing some better designs?
Certainly. You can find us online at rddmag.com.
Ah, that's great. And remember, we will cross-promote all of our show guests on our social media channels, as well as this show will have an entire page on our website devoted to the topic of restaurant design, because we've been talking to some really great resources for you. Just a quick reminder that Eric and Robin Gagnon are the Restaurant Brokers. We're going to return after the break with our version of Restaurant Reality focused on this particular topic. Remember, We Sell Restaurants operates the largest restaurant brokerage in the company in the nation based on the number of listings, transaction count, and volume. We are franchising nationwide and have offices in Florida, Colorado, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. Stay tuned after the break.